Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Table. So tonight's conversation is titled "Love Across Difference." You know, we often say that race is always in the room. Race is always, but what happens when race is at your kitchen table? I mean, like, not just in the room, but with you in your kitchen table, what happens then, when it's in your marriage, when it shows up in your child's identity, how do you handle that, because it's different, I lecture, I can finish with leave race in the room and go. But what happens when it's right there with you at your kitchen table? It's in your child's identity. You see it in the car when you're driving out. What happens? Is there a difference? Valentine Week really gives us a language for romance. But tonight we move beyond romance. We explore intimacy. We explore power. We explore culture, silence, how we negotiate those spaces, how we negotiate, and sometimes the discomfort. Is there any discomfort? Are there things with stomach? Like we hear all kinds of stories, but because we say that love is personal, but it is never apolitical. While it is a personal thing, but is love apolitical? So we talk about in interracial and intercultural relationships. They are oftentimes romanticized as symbols of progress. It's like, what's so, like when you see, mixed race relationship, like. I think, the one that is really most fun is when you see, a young couple, different races working together with their hands. And you're like, oh, this community is really progressive, So we look at it as, we look at those things as signs of progress, but yeah, those relationships can also carry invisible labor. Power negotiations, cultural misunderstandings, So those things, yes, we're saying, this, but they carry a whole lot of things. And that's what we want to talk about today. So the racial realities that society prefers not to examine. We want not to talk about it, but those things are real. They're happening every day. So, so tonight, we're asking the question, can love exist without racial difference interfering? That's the key question we're asking. Can love exist without racial difference interfering? Or does race simply just show up differently in subtle, quiet, everyday ways? Do we get used to it? Do we silence it? Or how do families negotiate identity, belonging, and protection when the world still racializes their children? You see, so there are a lot of, so today, there are a lot of things that are there, so it's not just you, there are when children come into it, like, you're saying, we're cool in this house, but then what happens, when the world still racializes the children, that are in that. So this will be a respectful but honest conversation. We're not here for spectacle, but we're here for depth. So we're here for depth, and that's what we hope to do. We're back, and I have a very amazing panel, daring panelist. They are willing to take on this topic with me today. And with me, I have my wonderful friend, and you're becoming a permanent panelist on the Deep Table now. But so let's welcome back again, Carlin Thompson. On the Deep Table. So Carlin is a nurse manager. Right, a nursing manager again, and then we have Counselor Honor, we have Counselor Honor, here with us today. Thank you. Came all the way from Cork. Yeah. Thank you for taking that long drive here with us. No. And we have Meshan Sang. Yes. Meshan Sang is into immigration, and you do that kind of work with people who work in Ireland here. Yeah. And we have Sheshank. Welcome, second time back at the Deep Table. So you see. We're getting some regular customers at the Deep Table. So we have Sheshank, and Sheshank again does a lot of work, around you're a peace commissioner as well. Yeah. Okay, so these are the brave people who are looking at this topic with us today. How can we love across difference? What comes to your mind when you think of that?
I think acceptance comes across the mind when you think about loving across differences. because differences means that people are different. They have different cultures, different beliefs. So there's a aspect of acceptance that needs to be at the forefront before you can accept that you're going to love across differences. Love across differences could be in food, in the food, the music, languages. It's so much to uncover when you think about loving across differences.
Yeah. I would say, as Karen just mentioned, I think love is differences everywhere. Difference could be religion, it could be even in politics. Yeah, it could be in
politics.
culture.
I like that one. How would it be like, two guys on the same different parties?
Absolutely.
I think.
Or you could be with the wife in the house, and then the wife is from X party, if you can say, and the husband is from Y party.
Doghouse.
So I don't want to mention any party, not to make any publicity. But I think love across difference is, I would say, is one of the most challenging and one of the most transformative experience for all of us.
I will come back to that. I love that idea of it being challenging, but also that it offers the potential of being transformative, isn't it? Because you're living it, you're learning it,
Yeah.
But what do you think is most misunderstood in Ireland when we talk about loving across difference?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you go, Brian.
Okay. So I think the most misunderstood thing in Ireland is that people assume that mixed relationships can be naturally, automatically open-minded and easy. But from my experience, being an information and advocacy officer for the migrants, we do a lot of application forms for them, and we give them advice. And we can see that people must deal with this kind of everyday conversations or everyday calculations of what documents I should collect and under whose name the bills should be, and we should keep photos of ourselves to prove we are real relationships. So it's like an everyday practice that migrants need to practice themselves and need to navigate from. So from my own experience, it can be challenging.
That's, I didn't, when we were thinking about this topic, I didn't even think about all of those things that, you actually have to prove, and that's one of the questions I'm asking later, are there things that you have to do when you're in a mixed race relationship that you don't actually have to do in others? But because you work with people who are, through the immigration process, that you actually have to keep proof that you're actually in a real relationship. Can you imagine that? That, you actually, you're in a relationship, but it's being doubted, But Shashank, we might come to you and...
I personally believe that love is not perfection, it is attentiveness, right? And that is how healthy, conscious love across difference can look like. It'd be more like curiosity about each other's culture, having that shared responsibility to address racism, and the cultural exchange should not be seen as competitiveness, right? It is something that you fulfill this part or you fulfill that part. Like, for example, I'm an Indian, born in India, so I come with colors of festivals, and coming into someone else's life who comes from a completely different environment, they might have nothing on how they celebrate specific achievements, whereas where I come from, you celebrate every month. There's always something going on, and that is what we different cultures, different people bring in each other's lives. Some people bring black and white, that's clarity, pragmatism. Other people bring colors, that's creativity. And when you mix together, that's how you create the new generation of the human species. You know what I mean? That's what I say.
And I think that when you describe that, I just see like an atmosphere that forces you to be open.
Yeah.
Do you see? It's like you're thrown in the deep end, and for you to make this work, you actually have to be open.
Yeah. You need space for disagreement without your identity being threatened.
Shoshank, that's I have to. Can I quote that one sometime?
Take it.
I like that. That without your identity being threatened, isn't it?
Or challenge.
Or challenge.
Yeah.
That. Carlin, I might come to you because I know too much. No, okay, I wouldn't say. I was going to say something my sisters and I say together, like, girl, you know too much. I have to kill you right now. Because we always like, you know too much. So you have to be my friend for life. But Carlin, I know a bit too much. But so you're married to a white Irish man.
Yes.
And you have a son who is black,
Yes.
and so what's my question? So my question is, so does love alone keep the dynamics of because I see, the first time I met you with Simon, and like I was like, are these a couple? Like everywhere, you guys are everywhere okay, I'm not saying too much information.
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Like you guys are everywhere together, you go for events together, like, you're happy together, So is love alone enough to protect your relationship, or are there racial dynamics that come into it?
The answer to that is unfortunately no. Love alone is not enough to protect us at all. Love is amazing, it's beautiful, it's functional, but it doesn't exempt you from racism. It doesn't exempt you from somebody saying something negative and the negative stereotypes that are held out there. That, for example, they might think, okay, you're married to a person because you want your immigration status, when that's far from the truth. Or for myself personally anyway, and I'm so proud of that. I didn't need to marry a person from Ireland to get my immigration status. I did that all on my own. But there's concepts out there, there are thoughts out there that that's the reason why. Or the concept that you have to, when you marry somebody outside of your own culture, that you're marrying them so they can lift you up. Why is it always the white person that lifts up? They never understand the concept that the black person or the person of color of the person of a different culture can uplift. It's always focused on the other, but it never excludes us from danger, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In my home, in my family, there's a safe space, but when you go out into society, it doesn't ease. So what it created personally in our relationship is greater love, more love actually, because he's never afraid to show love outside of the home, just like he does out inside, and vice versa. And the same thing with our son. We don't try to be somebody else that we're not. We try to be ourselves. And it's through that a lot of people have come to accept and even love us and admire us because of the way we are with each other. But it does come with its own challenges. It's not always plain and simple, because my husband one time told me, he said to me one evening, I came home from work, he said, do you know I'm black now? I said, why did you say that? He said that I go through the same pain you go through now, because you come home and you tell me about things that might have happened in work, or while you're on the street, or while you're in the supermarket. So I take on that pain now, not in a sense to rescue you, but in a sense to understand more. So he's educated himself to a level where he not only sees it, but he documents it. We've been on trips abroad for that very same purpose, where we can educate ourselves more. So it's not without its challenges, but it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I like that. Maybe anyone wants to just contribute to that. That what shifts when children enter the picture? Like, is there a shift? So it might be, he might keep you safe, or you might keep each other safe, or she might keep you safe. But what happens when children come into the mix? What happens when work comes into the mix? What happens when you go to a restaurant, and, you're treated badly, in front of somebody who loves and cares for you? Like, what happens when all of these dynamics are, come into the mix?
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. That's another very good question. I want to see love, I think love is has a lot to do with unseen, as I say it, love, because most of people just they base on what they see.
Yeah.
So basically what they see could be maybe the color, it could be what they hear, maybe the speaking, maybe the accent, or maybe the culture, the food. Meanwhile, it doesn't limit to that. There's a lot of unseen behind love. And this unseen aspect of love is managed by two people, a man and a woman, who should always stick together. And if a man and a woman, no matter where they're coming from, if you stick together, nothing gonna break that, nothing gonna break through. So I think, so I think it's more about togetherness, about sticking togetherness, and as they said, just close the two ears, because a lot will be said.
Yeah. That's the solidarity
Correct.
among people we love.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. So I think solidarity is very, togetherness
Yeah.
is for me it's very important for a couple.
So that means like something like, you have to be, okay, those days, like in church, people say that, oh, you're my better half, and then, then church began to say, actually, no, you need to be whole, because because if you're half and half, you don't make one, you make half.
Yeah, and when it comes to children, we have children, our children are born here. So whether they like it or not, they are what they are, and it's not going to change. So it's up to them to work hard. It's up to them, if I can say, to fight, not the physical fight, but to make sure that they are there, that they listen, that they can have their own say when they want to have their own say, that they can do what they want to do, when they want to do what they want to do. I mean, that they have the freedom.
To find their own voice in their
Correct.
own space.
Correct. To make their voice heard. It's very important that we train our children, that we tell them, listen, this is what you are. It's not going to change. They might.
Acceptance.
Correct. Today, they can go to a clinic tomorrow and then, I inject one or two stuff and then the color will start changing. But it's not changing. It's not going to change. It's not going to change who you are. So, we keep reminding our children, keep reminding the family, this is what you are. And it's not going to change. And it's up to you to stand up. It's up to you to make your voice heard.
We'll come to Misha. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I really agree with keep the communication going among people we love. And although we have differences and even we have different opinions, we can negotiate it in our daily life. And so there are a few real benefits if we keep the conversation going among all of us. And I think firstly, we have self-reflect of who am I, and also who is my partner and why he or she think that way. Is that method a little bit better than mine? If I don't agree with them, I don't agree with the cultural differences, in which way I can properly express myself, my different opinions. And that's a way, I think that's emotional intelligence for someone to practice in daily life. And secondly, is a cultural literacy for us to improve. We not only know the food, the festival of another culture, but we know where they come from.
Yes.
I have a couple of years of teaching Chinese language and culture. A lot of Irish partners, Irish spouses, went to those courses just to study the language, the culture, to understand why their spouse express themselves in that way, and to better communicate even with their in-laws. And even like they just want to understand what the partner cursed during their argument. and that's one thing. And another thing is solidarity.
Yes.
So we know what each other comes from. Although sometimes we are very tired after a whole day's work, we have to listen to another different, like difficult stories of another person, but we do for each other.
Yes, of course.
And we have good
Important.
times and bad times. In our good times, we listen more. In our bad times, we express more.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
agree.
You want to contribute to that, or
I came to Ireland when I was 12 years old, so I can tell you from a child's perspective that what I went through in a school which was majority full of white people, right? And when I would come home, I would always be sad, no friends, very lonely life. School life was very bad. Then college, I got busy with different things. So I just want to be very honest, and say to parents out there that love your kids through honesty. Call the spade a spade and speak plainly. That name the reality. If it's racism, let them know. Help them understand what racism is.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Do not personalize systemic issues. Avoid defensiveness. If they are fighting back with you, try to understand their perspective, because what they're experiencing in school is something completely different. Share the burden of education and communication, because you see the differences that we experience due to the color of the skin only evolves as you grow older. I train kids football every Friday evening. I have kids from the age group 4 to 7, and it's a diverse bunch of kids, different color skins. Okay, I see that as different pigmentation, same consciousness. That's exactly what we are missing as we grow older.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Does race change the power dynamics inside relationships? If so, how? Does race, when race comes in, does it change the power dynamics inside a relationship? Does it have an effect?
It sure does.
Yeah.
It has both a positive and a negative effect. For example, when you think about myself personally, I've lived in Ireland for 24 years, so I've gotten to know the culture of Ireland. So when I got into a relationship, it never bothered me because I knew the culture. But if I should take my partner, my husband, to my country, Jamaica, he might not get to understand a lot of the cultures, and that's where the power dynamics come in. In Ireland it would be less power dynamic because I know the culture, I understand it. I know about Paddy's Day and so on and so forth. Whereas in Jamaica, he would have to learn all that. He would have to learn how we live, how we associate, how we treat our family members, so on and so forth. So it depends, what level you're at and how you learn different culture. And as I said before, acceptance is so important. And Mishan talked about solidarity is extremely important, and communication as well, because you can still live in Ireland with your partner and still you feel less than, because you feel less than where you are in your home, and you feel less than when you go out of your home. Whereas in my personal relationship with my husband, there's no power dynamics there. We treat each other the same way. We love on each other the same way. But it's not always the same for a lot of other couples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you bring some really interesting dynamics there. That because like if he would have to go to Jamaica, then he would have to rely on you. I think he wouldn't have to do so much here in Ireland, because Ireland is a safe space. Ireland is home,
right.
and all of that, and I think like maybe just I think because other kind of dynamics that might come into it.
Absolutely. Like my own example. I'm originally from Cameroon, and in Cameroon, like I was saying, Nigeria, the country, doctor, we have more than 250 tribes, which are all different. Like I met my wife Vivian here in Ireland, Waterford. We got married in 2005.
Oh, you got married in Ireland, so you met her in Ireland.
Yeah, I met her in
Wow,
Ireland.
that's nice.
We got married in 2005, and then we are both from Cameroon. We are both from the same region, the western part of Cameroon, where we call Bamileke, but we are not speaking the same languages.
Really?
Yeah. So that is that is another type of difference
Yes.
that people don't see. That
Yeah.
they might always see that, oh, you are from Cameroon, and that everyone will think, oh, you are from Cameroon, that's okay. You can understand each other. No, we're coming from the same region, the Western region, but we speak different languages. We don't understand each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the tribe language here, they
Yeah.
don't understand each other. So that's kind of different that we have to go through. That we have to teach our children.
Yeah.
So why are we going to take them? Are
Yeah.
they going to be speaking that language, or are they going to be speaking the Hmong language?
Yeah.
So all this kind of it's just to say that this is the kind of unseen aspect of love that people don't see.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
people just see maybe a black lady that is married maybe to a white man, or a woman who is married to a white man. So I will say that love is, it could be from the same country, from the same way, and then but there is
We
still
have
a
some
difference
different
here
dynamic.
that
Neshek,
people don't see.
I might come to you, but because I'm just thinking about, like what of when there are things, like immigration status, I know Kimberly Crenshaw writes about that, particularly, about, like just when there's different, immigration status, like in Ireland now we have issues with trafficking, and all of those kind of, but so, the dynamics are kind of really different. So when we have things like citizenship, difference in citizenship, does the power dynamics change, because sometimes I know there were some times people are afraid, to speak up. They tolerate abusive relationships because they're like, oh, I need to renew, so all of those dynamics still do come to play in some parts. What do you think?
Yeah, there are like different aspects. So I'm going to use one or two examples, or one or two aspects. So firstly, when we think about mixed marriage or mixed relationship, we think it as a private and personal matter. But in immigration, you can go public quickly. And because when you travel with visas, with passports, you have to, for example, for non-EU spouse who are going to traveling to Ireland and from a visa-required country to join their spouses, they have to disclose every little bit detail of their relationships, and that includes a detailed account of their relationship from the start, how they meet, when they meet, and when they move together, when they become boyfriend, girlfriend, when they engage, and when they're married and have kids. That's the template you should follow. And then you have to provide document showing that, say, travel document, the travel history showing you meet each other in person, and also screenshots of your text messages.
Wow.
Showing
That is deep.
you're consistently in contact, and even love letters when you are not used to the digital method of contacting. And I used to have a couple who are in their 50s and 60s. I help them collect their postcards and love letters because they are not used to texting each other in a long-term, in a long-distance relationship. And after the visa application, they change their lifestyle. They become to communicate more
Okay.
by using the apps.
Okay.
So that's how the system can shape our everyday life.
Yes,
Yeah.
your identity. Yes.
Yeah,
of
your
course.
identity. Because like after they got their visas and they live here to renew their residence, they need to show that they consistently living together, and then they have to put their bills under their names. And in that case, they will know that is the knowledge I must know to live here legally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good example of how the system can shape migrants' lifestyle, even
Yeah.
how influential
Can.
it is.
You know, and I'm just thinking of all kind, I'm just thinking of so many things, So even from immigration, even whiteness as well, because whiteness can shape, all of the, but Shashank, if I do come to you, to look at, like in political and activist spaces, like does relationship, how does that interfere in any way?
So, interracial relationships can become symbolic in politics, like they're held up as evidence of progress,
Okay.
questioned as betrayals of cultural loyalty, okay, and they can be used to validate or invalidate someone's views on race. I have seen relationships scrutinized through ideological lenses that have nothing to do with the couple, and this is something that
Very common.
people in politics need to understand, that the folks out there are normal human beings living in a healthy relationship, stable, committed, with each other, struggling and suffering the same issues that every other couple faces: growing
Yeah.
children, finding a house, paying your bills. These are the primary three things that everyone is facing, and that's what anyone an interracial relationship is also going through.
Yeah.
So
Yes, of
from a
course.
political point of view, I don't think that should even be considered as a subject matter to discuss on a public platform. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
So I'm thinking, so what kind of, if I was a fly on the wall in their house, what kind of conversations, right, would, interracial relationships have that maybe people from the same racial groups not have? What kind of conversations would they need to be having? Did you
Get
see
that
he was looking at
electric- get that
Carlin?
electric,
That look was saying, Carlin, come and help rescue us.
You see, it's so different for different groups. For example, I have friends like yourself who's from India, and they're from different caste system, and their conversation in their homes are so different. When they go back home, do they go to see their family? Do they go here? Do they go there? It's such difficulty and differences because of the caste system, which you might be able to talk more
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that. But in my culture, because Jamaica is such a mixed, out of many, one people is our motto, because we're mixed. We have whites, Indians, blacks, Chinese, you name it, and that always has been. So for me, there's not much of a difference at all in the
Okay.
conversations when it comes on to race. But the conversations around beliefs might be different. Like, do you believe there's a God? Do you not believe in God? It might be different in that regard. Education might be different. Conversations around education. Because I used to say how privileged my husband is. But then when I checked myself, I realized I am so privileged too,
Yeah.
I came from a background where I went to boarding school. I'm educated at the highest level possible, even since I've been here. Whereas to my husband, that seems a big deal. To the Irish public, that's a big deal. You went to private school. You went to boarding school. So the conversations would be more around those things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily race personally.
Yeah.
But then there's conversation about racism,
Yeah.
what it does, how it affects you, how you carry traumas without even knowing, without acknowledging. And then there are the other conversations around how do you cope with this. Do you go to counseling as a family?
Yeah.
Do you sit and talk as a family? And you asked a question about children, and our son, we had to talk to him about, how do you navigate yourself around this environment? We had to talk to him about it. Thankfully, he's a very smart young man and he can cope with it. But there are days when you have to sit down and listen to certain aspect that he's going through or he's been through, and noted that your experience is different from their experience as younger people growing up here in Ireland, especially a young black man growing up in Ireland. It's not easy to navigate. But because you've had lived experiences, because you've studied or learned about certain aspect of it that can cause disruptions, then you learn to have conversation around things like that.
That's interesting, because I was just thinking about, how do we, conversation, how will we raise our kids, where will they go, and who will talk to them about race or racisms, or would we just pretend that it doesn't happen? Shashank, you want to say
So
something?
I just want to add on that casteism part. I think casteism is one of the most evil ideologies ever imposed on the human species. Just to go back in time, like this entire concept comes from the Vedas, which is like the most ancient scriptures, and that is just wisdom through experiential knowledge. Okay, like no extraterrestrial being came to the person and said things. Okay, it was through their own understanding they came up with a book of wisdom, in which they had 4 different types of individuals: the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Shudras, and the Vaishyas. Okay, but these were people on the grounds of your values. But what happened as society evolved, the key people within, like in political sphere, they politicized this thing, and then they deliberately made people fall within that caste on the grounds of their birth. That because you're born in this family, you deserve to be this, rather than having that understanding that I am this because of my own values. Like if you're somebody who's lazy, who doesn't want to do no work, you're gonna get shit work. But if you're somebody who is, okay, let's say if you are a bodybuilder, okay, and you are a powerful person, then you go into the pathway of being a warrior. That's Kshatriya. If you're somebody who's using the mind to store knowledge, then you're a Brahmin, which is like the top one. So that's how you put yourself in categories. You're not born into it.
Yeah.
But like what has happened along the years, people have used it as a way to govern humans, right, so that they could maintain the political power. And it is going on till today. Like we have caste, and there's a subcaste, there's subcaste. And this is the primary reason why I personally believe that India needs to maintain its pluralistic ideology and not move towards a specific religious nation. Because when you go towards that, Hinduism in itself is an umbrella term. It is not one belief system. They don't understand. They want to call it Hindu Rajya or Hindu kingdom. But the moment you put Hindu there, you are outlining that yes, there are differences. You know what I mean? And like it is something that needs to be addressed.
So we have
hopefully.
and I think that's what someone said here. That so it's not just race. There's a difference. We have religion. There's a difference. We have language. There's a difference. So there's a culture, food. Because most music. Like we like to dance, and some people like to jump and stand straight. And all of those.
Education.
I think education.
Music different from country to country.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the can love unintentionally reproduce racial hierarchies.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Very easily. And you see that a lot. Like you see, especially in America, where people are treated indifferently in such a high level, in front of everybody, just because of that. That's the power dynamic that shows up in face. But then again, it also is what you accept. Remember, initially we talked about acceptance, and it's what you accept, what you allow to happen. You must have some alignment in your relationship. You must have some, dignity and strength in your relationship, that you're not going to allow certain things to happen. Even if you try to show it face, you can shut it down right then and there. But if you love somebody for the right reasons, then most likely those things won't come up in your relationship. But if you like, the way in some cultures you have people who just marry just to get, like, for we've discussed immigration status. Some people will get married just for that, or some people will get married just because it can take them out of poverty, or some people will get married because they want to show everybody that, okay, yes, I can marry into this family, I can marry into that, But in essence, if the dynamics is not the right, for not the right reason, then it shows up in face eventually. So it's how do you deal with that now? How do you deal with the backlash and the drawbacks of when everything falls, if you're not in it for the right reason?
And some people will say, some people will prefer to stay silent about race, not just, the family. Race would be an invisible elephant in the room, but it doesn't get talked about. So is that a form of avoidance, one? But also, like some people always say, oh, I don't see color, So does that, then come up, does that play out in relationships as well? When people say, oh, I don't see color, does that play out?
I will say, yeah, it plays out, and we have to be proud of who we are. For me, it's very important that we be proud of ourselves, and that our children and that our family be proud of themselves. So it's up to us, the parents, to make sure that we have the right communication, that we have the right dialogues.
What of when the thing is between the parents? When is one person suppressing the other, or one person? Do you know? Because we're talking.
If it's one person, like, I understand what you're saying, doctor. Like, that can happen. That one person is trying to dominate the other one, or that, if I can say that. But this happens, and my own advice here would be communication, because communication is very important. Small communication like this can fix big problems.
Okay.
So I will say to communicate, talk to each other,
and I always say something.
Understand each other.
I always say something that we have one mouth and two ears. That means that we speak once and hear twice. You must speak half of what you hear. You understand? Because you have 2 ears, that means you hear double. You must hear more than and if we can slow down a bit and listen and hear, and all of that. But what emotional labor often falls disproportionately on the racialized partner? So is there emotional labor that the racialized partner has to bear in relationships? Is there an emotional labor?
So I'd say explaining racism, because if you have somebody who doesn't understand, who doesn't see color, would never be able to, pinpoint the discrimination happening in front of them. So I always say awareness is not division, it is a responsibility. Okay. So explaining racism, then addressing the microaggression for a partner who does not experience them. So you might get frustrated that why don't you just get it? That happens a lot because you are coming from different cultures, and there's this extra additional labor where you have to, mansplaining when it comes to men, that's generic, but if somebody is in a different interracial relationship, there might be something else. Educating children about bias while protecting their confidence, this is very important. Cushioning a partner from discomfort when race becomes tense. So I believe when you would go on your journeys overseas, and if your partner experiences something, then they put in the extra additional labor which would not be required in, let's say, if it's a white. If it's a different color, then the white person has to understand what the person is going through. So they put in that extra effort to understand, first of all, and to help. So, additional labor probably comes in there. But I'm saying those, I don't know.
Protection.
But
I don't know.
It does happen like that, of course. And the good thing is when you have a partner that is very attentive and understanding and can point out or even see, sometimes they will see it before you do. And, we talk about acceptance and what you do accept sometimes. And sometimes you can't fight every battle. So you just ignore certain situations. But then, a partner might be able to say, okay, did you see that? And I say, yeah, I saw that, but, I tend not to acknowledge it because the person might want you to acknowledge. So you have to know how to navigate yourself around it. But it does create some emotional baggage as well, because this person's always constantly trying to protect you. Or protect you. You're trying to protect your children, from different racial abuse, or for example different stereotypes or so on, but you can just never protect them. But then you take on that role, so it becomes an emotional burden somehow. But it's how you deal with it. You can either make it use it as in a positive way, or you can let it affect you in a negative way. It's just how you roll. It's how you use it, you know.
Yeah,
So
I think
there's quite a lot. There's educating children, protecting the partner, explaining or explaining, mansplaining, explaining,
Explaining,
about
that's a good word.
so all of
And-
those,
Yeah, and it will be a really good, I think, advice for the couples or the mixed families to go to a professional consultant to talk about those things. Sometimes a third person can be more out of the situation and clearer-minded, and even and if this person has trainings on these kind of issues, that'll be a good resource we can go to.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we are providing consultant service for a migrant couple, we can notice that there's just one person who's talking because he or she has better English, and or he or she has the courage to negotiate with the immigration officer, or to argue when they are not agree with the decision from the authority, and that's why I think community, the support from the community,
Yes.
really help. And
Yes.
you also mentioned, and this social space is so
Yes.
important for people to share their stories, and to have support from the people who have similar experience, or who have built up more wisdom from
Yes.
previous experience. So that's why we are initiating an organization called Asian and Irish Community Connect, and we hope to help a lot of Asian and Irish families, mixed families, and their children to have a space to talk to each other and tell each other's stories. Sometimes when I'm providing consultation service, I feel guilty of stopping people for telling their stories. I would tell them, you only have 1 hour. I need to finish this long form, really quick. And can you give me such information? But I don't think it's a normal conversation between human beings. And so it's part of me hoping to
Yes.
create another space for them just to tell the stories.
Yeah, and that's so
Yes.
important, isn't it? Because,
Yes.
that we don't, and that's one of the reasons why I really push to have the DEeP table,
Yeah.
just to create a safe space where we can explore these issues. Because we are thinking it, it's happening to people, and we don't have that space.
And doctor, I think I'm not cutting you. I think
No,
there's
it's okay.
also the pre-marriage courses
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
Yes.
training that couple could go
Therapy,
through.
yeah,
Therapy
therapy,
that
yeah.
couple could go,
Yeah.
and then I don't know how many weeks,
Yeah.
and then
So how do we protect love without ignoring reality? How can we protect love, but yet also not ignore the reality?
As I said before, love is foundational. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful things you can experience in this world. But you have to have that built-in armor, togetherness. You have to have that. And you have to consciously make the effort to have it there, that it can withstand so many things. For example, I'm going to give you guys an example, a personal example. My husband and myself, we tried for years to have children. We have a son together, but my son is from a different relationship. So my son now is our son. But we tried to have our own children together, and it's very hard. It was very hard, and we lost a few pregnancies. And if we didn't have that built-in strength, it wouldn't sustain the marriage, because it took so much out of us, just to go through all the processes, to feel that you're so elated when you know that, yes, you've done this, let's see now, do the pregnancy test and everything, and then a few months down the line it's gone. So you have to have that inner strength to withstand a lot of things that are going to happen. That it's like you're in a bubble, and you have all these things coming at you, and they they might come at all one time, you know, and you have to insulate yourself. You have to consciously work towards that, and remember that you're never alone. You know, you're not alone in this. So for a lot of couples, if you don't have that insulation, if you don't have that communication, if you don't have that love, that care for each other, it can just break into pieces because of the external influences that are coming in between. So I think having a really strong relationship with yourself and with each other helps to maintain and strengthen the relationship, so it doesn't just tear apart when things happen.
Like a
I
teamwork.
think, yeah, I think
Yes.
Teamwork. But
Solidarity.
if I come with another question, so what does healthy, conscious love across difference actually look like? And I think you've kind of explained that, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what a healthy, you know. So if somebody is listening to us now, because, you know, people are going to listen to this, you know, and some young people are going to use them, you know, in schools for different programs. So that's why we're creating this content. It's going to be used, you know, and you know, people who have this issue can look at it. So what if we, and I love that, because I think that you've painted an example of that. But just, is there any other contribution, like what a healthy conscious love across difference, what it would look like?
Well, then I guess I just say a healthy love is not something only physical. It is. It requires that mental stimulation of understanding the other person, be willing to grow with them, and just be curious about life.
So I think so. So that's just like every other relationship, isn't it? Because and that's, I think that's important to. I don't know if is it like every other relationship.
It is just like every
It is,
relationship.
yeah. It
It
is.
depends.
It is.
Because some people marry not for love. They just marry because
They want to get married.
they want to get married, they want to get their status, as we talk about immigration. So people marry for different
But
reasons.
what about people in the same race? People, you know, Pretty Woman, she was getting married for
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I don't
I
think
think it's
marriage
just-
of convenience would fall under love then. You know what I mean? Like
I
they
think it's
would
just
not be
like
part of the topic, I guess.
Just
Okay,
lazy
so
to leave.
okay,
It's just like- it's just
I'm gonna. That's a hot topic for another day.
It's just like other love.
So, okay, so if Ireland were serious about being inclusive, what would change for interracial families tomorrow? What would we change?
I have 2 points here.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with 2 groups that are often overlooked. So the first group are the families who adopt children from different countries. And I have some figures here. Between 1994 and 2019, 431 children were adopted into Ireland from China alone.
Okay.
And between 1988 and 2023, 950 children were adopted from Vietnam. That's a huge number for
Yeah.
adopted children.
Yeah.
And these children will face identity crisis as they are adopted and they look different, but they spend most of their life in Ireland.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't find much resources or educational package or any content in the family resource center for them. I think those families needs more attention.
Yes.
And the second group is elderly migrants who are widowed or who have been living in Ireland alone for many years, and they crave, they need company,
Yeah.
but they're so alone. They're so afraid their life would change dramatically because of love.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we can create social space for those people to know more people. Well, we gave them information of how to love safely.
Yes.
I love so many ideas how to
Yes.
love safe. That's
Yes. Creating
Ding.
safe spaces. Yes.
That's a finger clicking one.
Yeah.
How to love safely. I like that.
Yes.
You know.
And I
So
suppose
I would say, you want to say?
I was just thinking of what Mayan said, that I suppose these adoptions that you spoke about were out of love. A loving couple deciding to adopt, you know, a child from another country out of love. But then the question you're asking, if Ireland accept us as we are, would it change? What would it change? And I think it would change the way we take care of our elderly, for example. It would change the way we accept our children, whether they're from different cultures all over the world. I remember one of my friends at some time ago, they adopted 2 children from one of the African countries, and they're a white Irish couple, and they they're well up to standard financially, and they decided to send the kids to a very upstandard school, and the kids were racially abused so badly that they had to remove them from the school. So with their status and their money, they thought that adopting 2 children from the African continent would change that dynamic, but it didn't, because of the way we are here in Ireland. We don't want to accept differences. So if we learn to accept differences, it will make life much easier for everybody, including the Irish.
I think we have to be tolerant as well, because you mentioned earlier that education is educating our students, the curricula, going to school, telling them about racism, or telling them about differences that are out there, and then make them aware as soon as possible. If you can say from primary school, from primary school up to secondary school, and that you can carry on into their own personal life when they go to university or when they go to college. But at least they should get some basic education, some basic awareness. They should get that foundation. That will teach them the real understanding of other people. That the real understanding of the differences
of how to manage. One of the courses I train about is called How to Manage Difference.
Definitely.
How we can actually teach, and that's what you're saying. That. But for me, one of the things I recommend for my doctorate was that we have to learn how to be accepting of difference.
Yes.
If we can actually include that in part of the training that we give, in addition to maths and English, chemistry and all of that, but that we teach each other how to be accepting of difference from a tiny age. From a tender age. We would not need to deal with racism, sexism, religiousism, whatever, any of the isms. We won't need to, because we've learned to accept difference. We've learned to see that, what we have in common. We've learned to see that we are actually all the same. Because at the end of the day, all relationships have, yes, they might have different things that put different pressures on them, but at the end of the day, we are all really, the same. Look.
Like doctor, look, when the children, when they are innocent, look at them in school.
Yes.
They
play with each other. But Henri, you spoke about educating children. But from my perspective right now, I believe that the people who need education is the adults. It's the adults, because if the adults were being trained how to deal with differences and accept differences, especially in our schools, then it would change so much. It would change so much, because our adults are not being educated. That is what's causing a lot of the issues. I read something the other day about racism in schools here in Ireland, and how some of the teachers are just allowing it to happen. I cannot understand it, because these are adults. They're adults. They should be also educated. How do you educate somebody in your classroom? Because the classroom, I suppose, now are quite mixed, or diverse is the word. And as a teacher who's not educated about racism and the differences that come with that, how are you then going to support a classroom that is so diverse? So the adults themselves needs to be educated as well.
I agree with you. I'm not arguing what you're saying. Adults need to be trained as well. They have to be educated. They have to be aware of what is happening. But I think it's very important that we start all these trainings, all this
Yeah.
awareness
Yes,
from
of course.
from the foundation.
From a foundation.
Yes.
of course.
Look, our time is well and truly spent because it's a topic that I'm sure we can stay here and go on and just keep talking about it. But again, it's really still important, and I think we've mentioned quite a few things. We need to get our young people to understand how to manage difference, how to be accepting of difference. Also, but if the parents knew it, then they would teach the children. We're saying the children now because we're expecting the schools, to help us do it. But we as parents must always remember that we have. Most of us have actually given up our rights, and given up our children to the government. Yeah, take care of them, train them for us, but we've absorbed ourselves. It's just to put them in the school, go, be free of, I'm free of you for 5 hours of you, and expect the schools, But look, I don't know if we have any questions from the audience or from YouTube or from Zoom. Are there any questions? Okay, do you want to read them out?
So someone from Zoom mentioned about your points about how there are a lot of messages that need to be read through for the immigration process. And they asked the level of intrusion is shocking. All that is to say is it criminal to love across difference? Love across difference.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm always thinking that maybe sometimes like visa office will end up knowing more about a couple than their own parents do. Yeah, so there are always like discussion about how much privacy should be disclosed for to the authorities, and I hope like this discussion can bring the topic further of protecting more and balancing the needs for following immigration rules and protecting people's own rights. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because when I was listening to it, it sounded so I know we watch it on, we see it in movies and stuff, but when you were saying it made it so real. It was so intrusive, I felt like,
Yes.
oh my God, that's too much
Makes
intrusion.
them really
Yeah,
vulnerable.
yeah. Look, I think that's the last question we have.
They really
That
should be.
that when we're adopting children, there must be some cultural elements that should be built into that. And it's something I would look at now because I've never had to look at it. But to see, is there a cultural element that is built into it that says that, if you adopt this child, you have a responsibility to help them understand that culture.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
if
sure
if
it
you're
may be
being
touched on,
Yeah.
but it's you having that understanding that this is actually very important.
yeah,
Do you understand?
Yes, of
Trying to
course.
work on the language when you talk about language, classes, like the
Right now, Africa Day is usually
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
a really good day for me,
Yeah,
because I always have a stand there, and I have the stand because I have a lot of conversations. So I see I see parents coming with their mixed race children, or you just see white couple coming with their black kids, dressed maybe like in the African poems or something, and that's just good. And they ask questions about hair, combing it, all of those and it's kind of good. So I think those kind of look. Our time
School
is
is
up, so I
not
have
enough, so
I have
thank you
one
so
last
much,
question for you,
School
and
is
then we'll
not
finish. So, but one last question is: what one myth about interracial relationships would you want to dismantle tonight, if you were going to dismantle one?
Thank
I
you.
can give you two questions, and you can choose any one. Of
No,
them, if that's a difficult one.
if I have to dismantle something, I would just say love is love across difference is not fragile. Love is not fragile.
Hey.
It's up to two people. If they love each other, to not accept that any kind of outsider come and break their love.
That's
if you can say.
great.
So
I
thanks.
have the opposite opinion, and I think we are taught to be resilient for so long, and we need to be
This is
vulnerable.
the woman
and
brain and man brain.
and express our needs, and so that it's fair for the other person to know like why we're upset, why we're angry. So it's fair to another person.
Yeah.
So just be vulnerable when you want to cry, when you're sad, and give the other person an opportunity to support you.
Good one.
Yes.
Yes. Gani?
Oh my, there's so much stereotypes that are out there, and for me Oh gosh, there's so much I want to say. It's hard to put it in one
Just pick
word.
one.
But for me, it's that, especially for couples that are black or white in color, that the white man is not the rescuer. There are people who tend to think that white men rescue black women and that's it, and that white men, if you marry a white man, he must have money, and you marry him because of the money, or something like that. So there's a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions there, and that's one of them that I want people to just get out of their heads, because I don't need I really don't need a white man. No black woman. No black woman needs a white man to rescue them. You be your own person. Go into the relationship with loving who you are. Be strong in who you are. Know who you are as a person, and don't let that dissolve in the relationship. So that's one myth I want people to consciously take out of their head.
Shashank?
I don't really have any myths to bust, okay? So I'm just gonna come to my questions, the closing remarks, if that is okay.
Yes.
Can I give you that?
Yes.
All right, cool. So what I would suggest is that normalization of representation of interracial families in public life, media, and politics, a clear protection against discrimination in housing, okay, especially folks who are suffering from domestic violence and they're in an interracial relationship. Interracial relationship or love is not extraordinary. It is ordinary love shaped by extraordinary awareness. Okay, and just lastly, it is important for Ireland to learn to hold difference without fear.
Yeah.
That is it. Learn to hold difference without fear. So vulnerability is key. That's
Fantastic. Look, we've had just amazing conversation tonight. Really, really amazing conversation. Listen back to it, watch it, listen, share it, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. What? Not sure if you can take any questions. Say comment or...
Yeah, it's just a comment.
Okay.
Just a question from Zoom. They said, are there any support groups in Ireland for people that have suffered racial attacks apart from the Gardaí?
Racial attacks.
Yes.
Immigrants Council of Ireland. There are a lot of groups that do work. I think we need to do a whole lot more. There's something we need to do apart from, because those groups, a lot of the groups, we need like a healing space.
Yes, of course.
That's what we need. A place where you can
a safe space.
Yes, that's what we need.
Yes.
And we've been applying for it. We've not gotten it, but hopefully we'll get it. A place where people can recover, where you can
Hope
heal.
and care as well.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So
And is this question about couples? Because I do know we can't. We have to acknowledge that there are couples who are loving across differences that are going through abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the power dynamics, and it does happen where another person said, "Oh yeah, you're in my country," or another person might say, "Oh, you marry me, so I can do whatever because you depend on me for your immigration status," or so there are a lot of issues going on with couples out there who are loving across differences, and that's why therapy is really good as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of NGOs have those kind of services, and like the NGO I am working at, Cross Care Migrant Project, and also Immigrant Council of Ireland, you have mentioned, and we support victims of domestic violence regarding their immigration issues, and for racism within a relationship. I think Irish Network Against Racism can be a good place.
Yes.
I think Hope and Care Collective as well. They do very good job if they.
So look,
Thank
you very
tonight,
much.
tonight we've heard, that love can be joyful, complex, protective, and political all at once. It can be all of those things. We've heard that love across differences is not proof that racism is over. It is evidence that people choose each other even in unequal systems. The real question is not whether interracial love exists. The question is whether society makes that love harder than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And I think the points that have come across today have just emphasized that a lot. So as we leave tonight, perhaps we ask ourselves, do we celebrate diversity symbolically, or do we support families structurally? you know. So love is intimate, but justice is collective. So look, I want to really thank, our guests, tonight, our guest panelists. Thank you. Shashank, it was great to have you back here. Mesha, thank you very much for coming back here. Councillor Honore, thank you for driving all the way from Cork. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
And Carolyn Thompson, thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having
Look,
me.
thank you all for being here. Next week we have a very interesting topic. Now the topic is gone in my head, but it's about saying silence. Should we say silence? About racism, and that's what we're talking about next week. So don't miss it. Be here. Remember to like our work on YouTube and support our work. So thank you for being part of the Deep Table conversation, and see you next week.
Thank you.